Some dreams vanish the moment we wake up, fragmented echoes of daily life, stress, or imagination, but others stay with us. They come with vivid detail, unmistakable emotion, and a strange clarity, like a window left ajar to something beyond our timeline. Some say these are just coincidences. Others believe they're warnings. In the summer of 1999, an unknown Japanese illustrator quietly published a peculiar manga titled The Future I Saw. It wasn't colorful or flashy. There were no famous characters or intricate panels, just 15 pencil-drawn dreams scribbled with sparse, cryptic notes. The book was forgotten until one of those dreams, eerily specific, came true, and then another and another. Tsunamis, earthquakes, deaths of global figures. Suddenly, what looked like nonsense started to resemble prophecy. Now, decades later, there is one final dream left, a vision so terrifying, so precise that it's haunted readers ever since. It predicts an earth-shaking event, a transformation, and it gives us the exact moment it will begin, 5 a.m., July 5th, 2025. So what did this mysterious dream reveal? And is there something hidden beneath its symbols, something we were never meant to? If you believe some dreams are more than just dreams, if you're ready to uncover a prophecy buried in time, then click like, subscribe, and stay with us, because what we're about to reveal may change the way you see the world. On July 1st, 1999, a strange and seemingly insignificant comic book appeared in a small corner of Japan's publishing world. Its title was simple: The Future I Saw. No flashy cover, no publisher push, no hype. It arrived with no more weight than a whisper, and it was dismissed just as quietly. To the casual eye, it looked like nothing more than a dream journal. 15 sketches drawn in pencil, each one depicting a strange, often chaotic vision. Beneath each drawing, brief notes were written in the margin, sparse, cryptic. Some described surreal scenes, others hinted at disasters or emotional moments. There were no characters, no story arcs, only raw fragments of what the artist claimed were dreams she had actually seen. No one noticed. The manga passed like a shadow in a bookstore, but something about it lingered, not in popularity, but in silence, almost like a message buried underground, waiting for the right moment to be uncovered. The dreams in the future I saw weren't grand in scale, at least not at first glance. There were no dates, no names, only atmosphere. Symbolism. One sketch showed waves crashing over a quiet street. Another depicted a city underwater. Another, an unnamed public figure collapsing under bright lights. They were strange, yes, but so are most dreams. So the world ignored them. But 12 years later, in March 2011, everything changed. A devastating earthquake struck northeastern Japan, unleashing one of the most destructive tsunamis in recorded history. Over 15,000 people were killed. Entire cities were swept away. And as the nation mourned, someone somewhere remembered the manga. They pulled it from an old shelf, flipped through its pages, and froze. There, among the drawings, was the wave. A scene so hauntingly similar to what the world had just witnessed that it sent shockwaves across Japan's online forums. A forgotten prophecy had resurfaced. On March 11, 2011, the earth cracked open beneath Japan. A 9.1 magnitude earthquake struck off the Pacific coast, violently shaking the nation for nearly 6 minutes. But that was only the beginning. What followed was a tsunami, waves over 40 meters high crashing into cities, airports, highways, and nuclear reactors. It was one of the deadliest natural disasters in modern history. More than 15,000 lives were lost. Entire towns vanished beneath the sea. And for days, the world stood still as Japan, a country synonymous with order and resilience, was engulfed in chaos. But while the government searched for survivors and the media reported nonstop on the devastation, something unexpected began circulating on online forums and message boards. Someone had found an old comic book, a strange one. It showed streets submerged under seawater, buildings collapsing, people fleeing from waves. The most disturbing part? The manga had been published in 1999, and in one of the margins, hastily scribbled, were 3 simple numbers, 3.11. At first, many thought it was fake, a tasteless internet hoax. But the scans matched existing records. It was real, and it had been buried in obscurity for over a decade. The book was The Future I Saw. Suddenly, thousands of readers began hunting it down, trying to understand what it truly was. They analyzed each page like a cryptic manuscript. The pencil sketches were simple, but their meaning now felt heavy, urgent, prophetic. One page had a drawing of a man on a brightly lit stage collapsing. Another showed a blonde woman in a tunnel, followed by a flash of light. A third depicted waves rising over rooftops, like what had just happened in real life. As readers counted through the dreams, they came to a chilling realization. 12.5 out of the 15 dreams had already come true. Some were metaphorical, others were direct recreations of actual events. But one truth echoed louder than the rest. This wasn't a coincidence. This was a map, a countdown, and the final destination was clearly marked. 5 a.m., July 5th, 2025. With the future I saw suddenly in the spotlight after the 2011 tsunami, the most urgent question became, who created it? All eyes turned to the name scribbled on the book's cover, Tatsuki, but no one knew who that was. The name appeared to be a pseudonym. There were no interviews, no public appearances, no publishing records that could be traced. Even the company that had released the manga no longer held any contact information for the author. In a world dominated by data, this person had vanished completely, almost as if they never existed. The mystery only deepened. Some believed the manga was a hoax. Others claimed it was a psychological experiment, or perhaps a collective hallucination amplified by mass trauma. But then things took a stranger turn. As the manga gained global attention, dozens of imposters began surfacing online, people claiming to be Tatsuki, releasing new visions, faking dream pages, and stirring fear across social media. Confusion turned to chaos. Some believed this was the work of a secret organization. Others whispered that Tatsuki might not be a single person at all, but something else. An intelligence working through symbols and stories. A conduit. A vessel. Still, the real Tatsuki remained silent for over a decade, until one day she returned. In October of 2023, quietly, without press or fanfare. A new version of the future I saw was released, this time expanded and annotated with details never shared before. This edition included not only the original drawings, but full descriptions of each dream and something no one expected, Tatsuki's real identity. She revealed she was born on December 2nd, 1954, in Kanagawa Prefecture. She now lives in Yokohama. Her life, by all appearances, was ordinary. She enjoyed singing, painting, and often felt emotionally sensitive as a child. But when she turned 9, her dreams changed. They became sharper, and someone began to appear in them. An old man, with silver white hair, gentle eyes, and a soft voice. He would walk beside her in dreams and tell her about events that had not yet come to pass. The first dream that truly unsettled Tatsuki came in November of 1976. In it, she saw a man on a brightly lit stage. He was singing with powerful emotion, surrounded by a massive crowd. Suddenly, the lights dimmed. He collapsed. Gasps rose from the audience. The music stopped. She knew who it was immediately. Freddie Mercury, lead singer of Queen. At the time, Freddie was at the height of his fame. He was young, energetic, and beloved across the globe. The idea of his death was unthinkable. But Tatsuki didn't laugh off the dream. Instead, she sketched it in her journal quietly without telling anyone. 15 years later, on November 24th, 1991, Freddie Mercury passed away. The world mourned. Tributes flooded television screens. Newspapers plastered his face across their front pages. And when Tatsuki opened her old journal, the sketch was still there waiting. But what disturbed her most wasn't the accuracy of the dream. It was a specific detail. In the background of her sketch was a small frame, a film crew shooting a scene about a deceased artist. At the time, she thought it was just symbolic. But now, watching documentaries and biopics being prepared for Freddie's legacy, the resemblance was too perfect, too precise. That was the first time Tatsuki felt afraid of herself. The line between imagination and reality had blurred, and she began to understand that her dreams might be something more. From then on, the visions became more frequent. They began to follow a strange pattern. Some came true 5 years later, others 10, and some exactly 15 years after the dream. She documented them meticulously, dates, colors, sounds, feelings, and even smells. On August 31st, 1992, she dreamt of walking through a sunlit corridor. At the end hung a painting of a blonde woman holding a child. The word Dana was painted across the canvas. Then came a flash of light, metal crashing, screams. Exactly 5 years later, on August 31st, 1997, Princess Diana died in a car crash in Paris. Another sketch, another dream, another tragic match, and the dreams only escalated. By the mid-90s, her visions began to expand beyond individual lives. They spoke of earthquakes, tsunamis, and global events. Something bigger was stirring, and she knew it was time to share them. As her dreams grew darker, Tatsuki felt an invisible pressure building. By the late 1990s, she could no longer ignore them. Too many had already come true. Too many bore the weight of something beyond her. So in 1999, she published them. The Future I Saw was her way of releasing the burden. 15 dreams, some symbolic, some terrifyingly detailed, all of them real to her. And then she vanished. For more than 2 decades, there were no updates, no interviews, no public statement. Even as her manga gained notoriety after the 2011 disaster, Tatsuki remained silent, almost as if the prophecy had taken its toll. But in July of 2021, something changed. Tatsuki had another dream, one unlike any before. She stood alone, surrounded by water. The sky was ash gray, the sun had vanished, and beneath the sea south of Japan, something began to rise. She saw bubbles, massive pockets of air, escaping the ocean floor. Then came the dragons. 2 enormous, twisting shapes emerged from beneath the surface. Their bodies moved like serpents of fire and smoke, coiling around one another, disturbing the sea as if trying to rip the earth apart. Then, a thunderous explosion. A tsunami of unimaginable scale surged forward. The land trembled. Buildings collapsed. The sea devoured everything. But the dream didn't end there. From beneath the waves, a new landmass began to rise slowly, painfully connecting Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and the Philippines. Tatsuki woke up gasping for breath, drenched in sweat. She recognized the dream. It was a continuation of one she'd had back in 1999, but now it was clearer, more violent, more urgent. She knew she couldn't stay silent anymore. In 2023, she returned. A new, complete edition of The Future I Saw was released. This time with new dreams, new commentary, and most importantly, a warning, a precise one. Something catastrophic is coming, and the countdown is almost over. We're only halfway through this mystery, and what comes next may change the way you see reality itself. If you're still with us, comment below. Do you believe some dreams are warnings from beyond? And don't forget to stay tuned, because the next part is even darker. In her 2021 dream, Tatsuki stood at an impossible height, so high that she could see the entire Pacific horizon spread before her like a living map. The sea below was still, unnaturally still. No waves, no wind, no birds, just silence. Then she noticed them, massive pockets of air bubbling up from beneath the surface, like the ocean itself was boiling from deep underground. She knew immediately this was no ordinary tremor. This was the sign of a submarine volcano on the verge of eruption. But what came next defied logic. From the edges of the scene, 2 enormous dragons began to emerge beneath the water-twisting, circling, coiling around the bubbling epicenter, as if guarding something ancient and forbidden. They moved in eerie silence, not mythical creatures, but symbols, forces of destruction and transformation. Suddenly, the sea cracked open. A column of water shot toward the heavens. Then came the tsunami, not just tall, but unimaginable. Taller than skyscrapers, faster than sound. It swallowed coastlines, cities, highways, and mountains. And then, something stirred beneath the waves. A shape, a mass. Land. Like an ancient body awakening from a slumber, a new continent began to rise from the ocean. Jagged rocks pushed upward. Soil churned. And land masses began to connect Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and the Philippines, all becoming part of one new continuous formation. In most apocalyptic stories, everything ends in ruin. But in Tatsuki's dream, there was a beginning. Not a rebirth of civilization, but a restructuring, a reset. She described the land as raw and untouched, like Eden after fire, a place not made for cities or machines, but for silence and reverence. The dream was vivid, precise, and worst of all, it came with a date. 5 a.m., July 5th, 2025. Could a dream like Tatsuki's ever come true? For some, the idea of a new landmass rising from the ocean sounds like fantasy. But geologists would disagree, at least in part. Japan sits atop one of the most volatile regions on Earth, the Pacific Ring of Fire. It's a massive horseshoe-shaped zone stretching from South America to Southeast Asia, where multiple tectonic plates collide, shift, and grind against each other. Over 75% of the world's active volcanoes are found here, so are 90% of all earthquakes. These tectonic plates aren't fixed. They move inch by inch, year by year, and when enough pressure builds, they release energy violently in the form of earthquakes, tsunamis, and undersea eruptions. In recent decades, scientists have documented several instances of new land forming beneath the ocean. In 2013, an underwater eruption near Nishinoshima Island, just 500 meters off the coast of Japan, gave birth to a brand new island. At first, it was only a few hundred square meters wide, but within months, it merged with the main island and doubled its size. In 2021, another case appeared in the Kuril Islands, a disputed territory between Japan and Russia. An underwater volcano erupted without warning. When researchers arrived by helicopter, they discovered a new landmass, still steaming, freshly born from the sea. These events didn't involve dragons or spiritual visions, but they proved something essential. The Earth is still reshaping itself, and it doesn't ask for permission. The ocean floor is full of sleeping giants, and if the right combination of pressure, temperature, and plate shift occurs, a massive underwater eruption could indeed lift a significant landform to the surface. It wouldn't happen overnight, but in theory, yes, it's possible. And that's what makes Tatsuki's dream so unnerving. Because behind the symbolism, behind the dragons in silence, there lies a sliver of geological truth, a truth we might be closer to than we think. Tatsuki's dreams were never simple. They didn't just show events, they used symbols. And none appear more often or more ominously than the dragons beneath the sea. In her 2021 dream, two massive dragons twisted around each other below the surface of the Pacific Ocean. They didn't speak. They didn't breathe fire. But their presence was heavy like ancient guardians or primordial forces stirring in the deep. At first, it seemed like artistic metaphor, a dramatic way to express chaos. But geologists and researchers began noticing something strange. The positions of the dragons in her sketches aligned almost perfectly with the intersection of two major tectonic plates, the Pacific Plate and the Philippine Sea Plate. This convergence point, known as a subduction zone, is one of the most dangerous places on Earth. It's where one tectonic plate dives beneath another, creating immense geological pressure over time. And it's precisely where some of the most catastrophic earthquakes and tsunamis in history have occurred. When pressure builds here, it doesn't just cause tremors. It can reshape coastline, or in rare cases lift entire segments of seafloor upward. That's exactly what Tatsuki dreamed. The dragon circling a bubbling sea, a sudden eruption, and land rising from the ocean like a sleeping beast returning to life. Could the dragons be metaphors for the plates themselves? Or worse, something watching over them? Some scholars of mythology have pointed out that in ancient Asian folklore, dragons were not evil. They were guardians of balance connected to water, storms, and the primal elements of Earth. If we take Tatsuki's dream as more than a warning, perhaps it's a message, not just of destruction, but of transformation, of forces beyond human control, but not necessarily without purpose. And with the date fast approaching, the question remains, were the dragons symbols? Or something real, waiting beneath the waves? Edemo, a seguir esta o Topico 9, the final dream, silence, collapse, and water. Come aproximadamente 2.000 characters in English. Est dos momentos mais densos de rotero. E aqui o tom se torna mais apocalyptico, emotional e introspectivo, preparando o climax para o Topico 10. There was one dream Tatsuki never wanted to share. She recorded it in her journal in the late 1990s, but only decades later did she admit its full details, not because she feared being called a fraud, but because she believed people might be utterly powerless to stop what she saw. In that dream, the world didn't end in fire, but in silence, it began with a sound. Not thunder, not wind, but a deep, guttural roar from beneath the earth so powerful, she felt her spine tremble inside the dream. She looked at the clock. 5 o'clock. There was no indication if it was morning or evening, just a number clear, cold, and final. She stepped outside and instantly knew something was wrong. The street was empty. The buildings, half destroyed. Lower floors torn open, like invisible hands had ripped concrete from its foundations. Power lines sparked in silence. Cars floated or lay flipped. The air was thick not with smoke, but with loss. She approached the bridge that spanned a familiar river, but only half of it remained. The other half had vanished consumed by water. And then she looked down. There was no solid ground beneath her feet. She was standing on a narrow strip of debris, surrounded entirely by ocean. No birds, no sirens, no voices, just the hum of a planet that had shifted beneath its own weight. When she woke up, she felt something she had never experienced before. Not fear, not panic. Absence. She noted a small but unsettling detail. In the dream, she had been wearing a short-sleeved shirt. Yet in Japan, March is still bitterly cold. That meant the event couldn't have been the 2011 tsunami. The timing was wrong. It was a different disaster, a future one, a summer one. And she wrote a final note beneath the sketch. What I saw was far more horrifying. It wasn't just a date. It was a time stamp burned into her memory. 5 a.m., July 5th, 2025. That's when the dream ended. That's when everything fell silent. That's when the land gave way and the sea took its place. She didn't see fire. She didn't see war. She saw transformation violent, complete, irreversible. And that number 5 o'clock echoed again and again across her dreams, across decades. Some believe it's the time of the final collapse. Others say it marks the beginning of something new, the moment the earth reclaims what was always hers. But whether symbolic or literal, the message is the same. We are being warned, not by a government, not by a prophet on a stage, but by dreams, by patterns, by a quiet woman who, for over 40 years, recorded what she saw in the night and watched the world catch up to her visions one by one. And now, only one remains. Tatsuki has never claimed to be a savior. She doesn't preach. She doesn't prophet. She simply wrote down the truth of what she saw. And if even one person believes, if even one person prepares, then maybe, just maybe, the damage won't be as great as it was the last time the sea came for her. Not all warnings come with sirens. Some arrive quietly drawn in pencil, scribbled in margins, whispered in sleep. We don't know if Tatsuki's final dream will come true. We may never know until it's too late. But across time, across scripture, and across generations, there is one truth that always returns. In the last days, God says, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your young men will see visions. Your old men will dream dreams. Acts 2:17. Maybe what Tatsuki saw was not just a nightmare, but a message. Maybe the final dream isn't about fear. Maybe it's about discernment. And now that you've heard it, what will you do with it? If this story left even a shadow of curiosity in your mind, don't let it fade. Like this video, subscribe for the next revelation, and turn on the notification bell because the next prophecy may already be unfolding. We'll see you in the next mystery.